Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's good to have you back. I missed you. I'm so excited for our wedding and I love you. If this is your first time joining us, I hope you don't have too many plans ahead of you because our wedding is coming up soon and we should probably hang out and get to know each other, otherwise it's gonna be a really awkward honeymoon. Anyway, I've been seeing so much circulating on TikTok and Twitter and just the internet in general about this godforsaken movie that's reminiscent of the feline fiasco that was Cats. Obviously today we're talking about the new Cinderella movie that just came out that nobody asked for and seems like it was written, directed, and released under Amazon's 2-day delivery policy. Starring the iconic pop star and ex-girl groupie Camila Cabello alongside some other notable names including Idina Menzel, Pierce Brosnan, Minnie Driver, and the iconic Billy Porter. This movie features a girl-bossified take on the traditional rags to riches Cinderella story. It's been getting dragged on TikTok since its release, and despite the hilariously bad clips circulating the internet,
I'd rather die. I don't care.
I wanted to give it a chance and see it for myself, figure out is it really as bad as it actually looks. I'm gonna go ahead and say it now, before we get into anything. Honestly, I don't hate the movie. That might get me canceled, but it's really not that bad. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's my favorite movie or that it's even good, but I'm not gonna pretend I didn't find myself enjoying some of the musical numbers or laughing along at some of the half-baked attempts at jokes. Without further ado, let's explore this musical mashup with so much head bobbing that the cast could actually have been a flock of hens dressed in Bridgerton costumes, and I literally would not know the difference. So, as far as my initial thoughts go, after having watched the movie completely at this point, I do have a few things that I'd like to talk about before getting into the movie that I think knowing beforehand might make your experience watching it a little bit better. So, firstly, this movie was written and directed by Kay Cannon, who is the creator of the Pitch Perfect series. The personality of the iconic film trio is pretty evident in this rendition, but I think there's a better comparison that can be made. Kay Cannon actually also created the failed Netflix show Girl Boss that debuted and ended after its first season in 2017. Not only is the main character of the show, Sophia Amoruso, the creator of the Nasty Gal brand, been in hot water since prior to the show airing, but according to a Vanity Fair article published in the same year as its debut, the show was really just bad enough that Netflix just had to cancel it and pull it off. And in my opinion, and I know I'm probably not the only one, this show also kind of helped to solidify this negative perception that goes along with the term girl boss, and it's transformed it from this empowering term that was used to encourage women going into the workforce. It's become now a mockery of women in business, and this kind of commodification of the girl boss is pretty obvious in Amazon Prime's attempt at the fairy tale, and I think the underlying themes are more closely related to this failed Netflix show than the popular a cappella franchise. The second thing I'd like to note is that in my opinion, this movie is perfect for the stage and absolutely awful on film. The costumes, the tone, the music, the storyline, the characters, everything literally would be so iconic if it were actually done on stage and not done in this movie universe. Once it was put on screen, I feel like it loses all of the magic that could have been there or was intended to be there, which is kind of confusing because you would think since you have more control of the environment on screen, you'd be able to kind of tell the story better, but I don't think that's the case with this movie. And I will say, I do have a background in musical theater, as well as a general interest in the industry, so I think framing this movie as if it were a stage musical makes it so much more enjoyable, even if you are still watching it as a film. And it also helps to justify some of the creative choices that were made, but we'll talk about that later on. Finally, after actually watching the movie, I have come up with a theory that I want you to try to keep in mind as you're watching these clips. So instead of it being the traditional love story between Fire Pit Ella and the prince, I think this particular story might be actually about a closeted gay prince burdened by the traditions of an unaccepting royal family and unknowingly in love with his best friend, and a girl with no interest in finding love but instead finding her purpose in a woman-hating world, and that in this story they come together in order to help each other achieve both of their dreams. That's not actually really about them loving each other, but I'll explain this more as we go on. I just want you to keep that in mind. So the film starts out with a vibrant backdrop as well as some shaky camera work and a robotically choreographed ensemble number. This movie features a number of songs jumbled together for a confusing and sometimes cringy score that culminates in this blanched medley of Janet Jackson's as well as a camp rock style dance number and character introductions to really set the stage for this movie. For a lot of movies, it can be really hard to bring the audience into the movie world within the first few minutes of the storyline, but immersion is a really important factor that makes movies so much more enjoyable. The first number was not great at pulling me in for more, but I was especially taken out of it when the characters were introduced by breaking the fourth wall. And I think that in a movie setting, sometimes that can be really distracting, but in a stage setting, it's a totally different experience.
The obnoxious Malvolia and the self-absorbed Nerissa.
We are a part, we are a part, we are a part of the Rhythm Nation.
This on top of the big ensemble number, the costumes, and the set design that looked like Joe Siwa threw up on Bridgerton's concept art. All of this makes me think this has to be made for stage. This cannot be a real movie. Next, we get a first glimpse at Ella's passion, which I guess is dressmaking. I was surprised to see such a big pop star with, at least as far as I know, no background in acting, landing such a big debut role. But after watching the movie, it's obvious to me that she has no background in acting. And I'm not trying to act like I'm some big name in the film industry because I've never really been in anything. But I was in several community theater shows as an ensemble member myself. And I had at least one named character under my belt at the time that I watched this movie. So like as far as experience goes, I'm kind of like an Oscar-winning actress compared to her, so like, okay. No, but for real, her performance, to me, she was treating it almost like it was a music video for each song, and even though the words and the songs changed, the way that she sang it never changed. Actually, you know what? I think a better way of explaining her acting to me in this movie is I just got my first big role in the high school winter production, so look at my stage hands, I just learned how to do them, and I'm making all of my movements and everything so big so that the person at the back of the balcony can see everything I do, because this is my big moment. Again, this kind of acting style does signal to me that this is like a stage show, not a movie. There's like a lot of head bobs in this movie. Not even just head bobs, but like head shaking. There's a lot of this going on, and there's a lot of... I don't know how to describe it, but there's a lot of that going on in this movie. I thought about putting in a counter to like keep track of how many times it happens, but it's genuine, it is constant, it is in every single scene, and it would just be so hard for me to do that. I also want to point out that like one of the biggest pet peeves I have with young singers is just, I feel like featured in this movie. Again, I'm no Beyonce, I'm not some huge well-known celebrity when it comes to singing, but I do have a background in singing. Hello, we talked about my musical theater career. I was also trained classically. I was in choir for a really long time. I used to go to competitions, blah, blah, blah. I've done a lot of vocal training. It doesn't matter. The point is, I can sing, I know how to sing, and everybody can do it. You don't have to be born with a natural gift. It helps, but everybody can do it if you're taught right. And when it comes to young singers, especially self-taught, I see this technique that just grinds my gears. And Camila Cabello, I know she can sing. I know she's an amazing singer. She's got a lot of power and a really good, bold voice, but good God, girl, calm that jaw down. You do not need to pop your jaw to change a note. And this isn't just her. There are many artists that do this. There's no real reason to do that. Your range and the notes that you can sing come from your vocal cords. They come from your muscle training, the way that you hold yourself and your body, how you position your diaphragm, all of that, and of course your mouth positions too. But popping your jaw is not necessary. You shouldn't be moving your jaw when you're changing notes, because the reality is if you're doing that, it means you've got too much tension right here, which means you're straining your vocal cords. They can't handle the sounds that you're singing, and it's not good for you, and it's not good for your audience's ears. You just gotta relax. You gotta learn how to do it naturally. Do it in a way that's not harmful to your muscles. It's just constant. It's constant jaw popping. Like, girl, TMJ is gonna sneak up on you real quick, and from somebody that has it, because I used to chew a lot of gum growing up, it's not fun, it's not pretty, and it hurts really bad, so I would cut it out now, because you still want that cartilage when you're 24. Hey guys, so I'm editing right now. Sorry that everything looks different. I didn't want to move a bunch of equipment, but I kind of wanted to address some of the things that I was talking about here, and say that if I had done less than 5 minutes of research. I would have been able to address this topic better, but instead I chose to talk out of my ass, so here I am trying to correct that. I actually did some research on this technique and learned a lot about it. It's actually called, or referred to a lot as, the gospel jaw, and from what I've gathered, it was popularized by singers like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston during like the 80s and 90s. And it seems to me to be more of a performance technique rather than like a functional singing technique. And by that I mean it's a visual tool that aids the audience in getting the full effect of a vocal technique. So whenever you're watching the artist do a vocal run or a fall or a trill or use excessive vibrato, those things can all be enhanced by using a visual aid like using your jaw to kind of signify that those changes are happening. That it doesn't actually affect tonality, it doesn't affect the ability of the singer really at all. It is mostly just a visual cue for audiences and to kind of enhance the overall performance and make it a big and dramatic thing that's happening. So that's what I learned about it. I guess my concern at this point is really just seeing artists, especially younger artists, that do it to an excessive amount, and by that I mean that it is very obvious there's a lot of tension back here while they're doing it, and to me that is not necessarily a good thing because it can lead to unhealthy singing habits, especially for young singers, and like I said, it can lead to like TMJ and stuff, which is not great, especially for singers. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to address that before we move on, so remember to do your research, kids. Aside from her constant jaw popping, we do get some decent vocals.
Smashed it!
And the lip syncing is absolutely atrocious in this movie. It's honestly very distracting, so just buckle in, settle in now, because you gotta be ready for the long haul. This next scene made me laugh in a very, how absurdly out of touch are these writers? Or was hair and makeup just not allowed anywhere near the script for this movie?
Unhappy with the tea, stepmother? Imagine if you served such swill to your future husband. How long would it take for him to abandon you?
First of all, how did she mess up something as simple as tea so bad that it warranted that response? Is it because the cups she gave them were actually more empty than my head after watching this movie? Or were they actually projecting because they had already used all of the hot water to achieve those Shirley Temple curls?
Learn from this and never do it again.
I'm so thankful for
You could be so pretty if you took even a second to comb that hair of yours.
Also, comb her hair? Yes, Ella, you're undesirable not because you're the only person of color in the entire main cast. You know, aside from the fabulous godmother who was a worm for half of the movie and has maybe 10 minutes of screen time in total besides the narration. But it's actually because your perfectly braided, styled, and silky smooth hair is somehow messy and needs combing. Okay. After a half-hearted attempt at comic relief by the stepsisters,
I thought she was rather hard on her.
I thought she could have gone harder.
Quiet.
we meet a character I still have a hard time wrapping my head around. Thomas, whatever his last name is, I guess he's supposed to be the guy that brings them food for some reason and also like has a thing for the girls. I don't know, his weird personality and like perv tendencies are definitely amplified in this uncomfortably paced scene, but not like in a funny way.
Oh, you're in! Good morning, Ella.
Mr. Cecil! It's Mr. Cecil!
The fleshiest fruit of the earth.
Would you like to come in?
Yes. No, not today. Yeah, I just wanted to check in on you and make sure that your blossoming daughters are managing. All right then. Now I've got this mental image to nourish me through the day. I'll be going.
And Cinderella's motivations here are also super unclear because, okay, spoiler, like, it's revealed that he specifically has a thing for her, which wasn't clearly expressed to me in this scene, but I feel like it was supposed to be, it was intended to be. And, like, she clearly doesn't want anything to do with him, but if that were the case, then why is she behaving this way?
I'm curious, do you really need that cane?
No, but chicks dig it.
Oh.
Maybe it's just me, but her quirks are reading more so I want attention and less I'm adored by all and oblivious to my own down-to-earth charms. We then get to see Cinderella hard at work with an original song. My favorite part about this scene is how she's draping herself with this fabric in a very specific way, nothing too crazy, just a one-shouldered drape. Very, you know, ancient Greece. Been there, done that. And we eventually see her face light up with inspiration as she walks over to a dress she'd already been working on, but stopped because she must have gotten dressmaker's block. And it had the same design that she was already draping on herself, and she was like, oh my god, I've come up with an entirely new design just now. Then she adds a brooch that looks like the commercial logo for the Gay Olympics and wows us with a terrible dress. I said it, and I don't regret it.
I'm gonna be the sun.
Okay, next we get to meet the prince for the first time, and what a doozy it is.
Now, you try tracking a fox when drunk. It's impossible.
No, it isn't!
You did.
Do not hit me, sweet prince!
We never have to be together, except for royal events, war planning, and when we have to engage in the disgusting practice of making a son.
Your offer is intriguing, but I have no intention on settling down anytime soon.
Not only was I convinced for the entirety of the movie that this is the same guy from the other terrible movie that came out recently, He's All That, which, as I was writing the script for this video, I came to realize is not true, but his character design in this movie is just awful. I understand he's supposed to be laid back. I understand that he's supposed to be like the seemingly irresponsible bad boy kind of thing. You know, what with his all black clothes for the most part and his single earring. But honestly, I feel like this character is written just so poorly.
I really just don't have the time in my schedule to be controlling these far-off lands. I am just too busy.
So we're introduced to his conflict, that he doesn't want to be married, and the woman that he's like more or less betrothed to is only really there as a means to gain territory for the kingdoms. And it seems like the motivation for the families to create this like relationship is because they apparently own the entire world, which is 2 countries. Except for, you know, the sea monster itself. And I guess by joining together and having a marriage, they can just own the entire world together.
This is called a world map. Now take a look at this blob here and here. If we marry, our blobs would join up and we would control the world all the way to this huge sea monster.
It's interesting to me how apparently there's only 2 countries in this world and yet they both happen to be British. Also, she mentions like fighting together for wars and like strategizing or whatever, but you just showed me the map, and if you guys were to get married, you would own the entirety of the world except for the sea monster, so like, who are you at war against? Your peasants? What's going on? So this next bit is a mechanism I've seen used in musical theater before, where a character or a specific group of characters will address the audience specifically and kind of break that fourth wall in order to narrate certain events in the story and break up the monotony of it. Think like muses from Hercules. In fact, I would be willing to bet that this like trope or archetype or whatever can actually probably be traced back to the chorus used in ancient Greek plays. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed the town crier in this movie, and in my opinion, they really helped to build the energy. I think they're fun, they're energetic, they're entertaining, and I do genuinely like it a lot. What I thought was a bit odd was how the character was actually used in the context of this movie. Like, I feel like I usually see this mechanism being used to communicate like boring parts of the story or parts that would be really hard to show either on stage or I guess on film. So like, for example, if the main character were having to like travel the world and I don't know, complete a bunch of tasks, that would be really hard and time consuming to show an audience, like by actually doing it. So instead you have this narration character come up and have a good time, and they tell you very quickly what happened, kind of like a montage type thing. Again, think of Hercules and think about when the muses come in and they actually have a part in the story and what they're telling.
He was a no one, a 0, now he's a hunter, he's a hero.
You know, it's just kind of a way to have a concise and yet entertaining explanation of the plot. That way you don't actually have to show. But in Cinderella, I feel like the town crier and the ensemble bit are more used to kind of reiterate what we just saw or what we're about to see, and it's kind of redundant to me with the material. I don't know. I guess that's just my opinion.
What is that?
It's a dress.
I made it.
We can tell.
I will not have you embarrassing this household with your blasphemy. Don't ever let me catch you trying such nonsense again.
No, I stitched this with my own 2 hands.
I should alert the King's Guard and have you arrested, you street urchin.
Who would like to purchase this dress?
Here's a laugh.
Don't listen to him. This is the one-of-a-kind design.
I'd stop while you're ahead, Missy.
Who on earth do you think you are, honestly?
I just think it's so funny how her whole, like, girl boss thing is that she wants to be a dressmaker in a woman-hating world and, like, glass ceiling and blah, 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 blah. But, like, maybe people don't want to buy your dresses because they're ugly. I don't know. Like, just throughout the movie, just take note of the dresses that she's made, which are like 2 tops, compared to everyone else's dresses in the movie, and you tell me which ones are better and which ones you would probably buy.
I feel nothing for these women. It's crazy to think I'm actually going to fall in love with one of them.
Kings marry for power, not for love.
Oh, well, it's perfect then. Then Mother came with 3 castles and 100 horses, or I suppose I never would have been born.
Silence!
This is insane. I can't just pick some bride at a ball. And then what? We're supposed to grow old together into our 40s. I mean, what are we even going to talk about?
So from what I'm gathering, the prince has no desire to get married because he doesn't like women and doesn't see himself with a woman at all. And he's got a single earring in his left ear. I don't know. Remember how I told you I had a theory that this story is about a closeted gay prince who's unknowingly in love with his best friend?
But I have no intention on settling down anytime soon.
But yeah, we're getting there. Next, we move into a cover of one of my personal favorite Queen songs ever, Somebody to Love. Is this the worst cover I've ever seen? No, I've actually been to a 4th grade talent show, thank you. Is it important to the plot? Also, no. This scene makes me laugh because, like, the choir had been part of the conversation, like, moments before this happening, and they were, you know, they were literally singing in the conversation in order to emphasize certain points.
I'll give it all. The crown, the palace, everything. To your sister. Bum, bum, bum. We shall hold a ball. A ball?
No.
Balls are fun!
Yes! Well?
And like, he was turning around and like skulking as if he wasn't expecting this clearly nosy choir to commiserate with him and his lack of having a significant other. It's very clear to me that this choir lives for drama, and he wasn't convincing anyone otherwise. This next scene, honestly and truly, haunts my dreams. So I'm giving you a trigger warning now.
Get off my dad!
Oh, good. Everyone's staring at me, just as I'd hoped.
It's just really hard to see in the back.
Hereby decree all short peasants shall be pardoned by the king.
No!
He didn't think that was funny, did he? Ooh, bird poo.
I hated every second of that, and I feel like I don't need to explain myself. So there's not really much for me to say here. So the prince has decided that this girl, you know, that one over there, the one just dying for attention, not only did she blatantly disrespect my stupid dad, but she's also a girl, which means if I marry her, my dad will leave me alone. So he just has to go out and find her, and he convinces his father to open his like debut as a debutante or whatever out into the public, and he decides to find this girl and invite her to the ball himself. But he also has to go in disguise for some reason, and he figured the best disguise that he could come up with so that nobody could ever recognize him ever is by tying a scarf around his head. In this scene, my suspicions about the prince and his actual motivations were more or less confirmed just because of this one interaction.
You know, I can't believe that you're willing to sully the dignity of the royal family for some commoner.
Wilbur, you sound old.
I'm just...
Just what? Oh, she's beautiful, she's witty, she's fearless. And holy hell, did you see the way she talked to my father?
So mouthy.
Glorious. I must know her.
I'm your best friend, right?
I have lots of friends. Of course you're my best friend.
Yeah, I thought so.
Beautiful human.
I don't know about you. I think this little Debbie Cake's prince might have other reasons to avoid marriage besides pissing off his dad. We then get a Material Girl cover with Idina Menzel and the stepsisters that I don't particularly hate, aside from the farmhand that lingers in the corner watching for some reason. At this point, we're getting our first explicit indication that Ella is not like other girls. I mean, it's been shoved down our throats this entire movie up to this point, but now it's like important to the plot. She wants to run her own business and sell her handmade dresses, but it's a man's world, and it's not a very womanly venture. So she sulks in her basement and scribbles incoherent nonsense and questions why no one believes in her and her uncanny talent. There are a handful of times throughout the film that the vocals are mixed so poorly that it's genuinely distracting, and you've probably seen a lot of these clips circulating on TikTok, but this one by far is my absolute favorite.
Now am I wrong?
So anyway, isn't she supposed to be like cleaning and stuff? I thought that was supposed to be the whole point of this movie, but I feel like she's just been spending all of her time making that. I also noticed at this point in the movie that she has puka shells in her hair, and I feel like that just speaks volumes to her character. This song montage is so unnecessary, in my opinion. Like, we get it. She's working on dresses. He's an e-boy in a boy band. Her family is poor. His mom and sister hate his dad just like him. Like, it's literally 5 minutes of the same clips being repeated with no new information. No development. We already knew all of this information because the movie literally spent the first like 20 minutes explaining the situation to us. So Ella's stepmother tells her like she can't go to the ball, and she's like, but how am I supposed to gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss my way out of here if I don't get to go? And I will say, I'm not mad at the dress she made for the ball. I know I've been kind of ripping into the other dresses that she made, but this one's not bad. It's not terrible. And then the Ice Queen herself throws a perfect Rorschach blob right into the corset and ruins it. She complains that she spent weeks making that, so we're supposed to believe that the whole montage that just happened was weeks long. The boy band performed Am I Wrong to an audience of crickets and mice for weeks, and has the audacity to try to show their faces at the ball. Very unrealistic. Also, I'm pretty sure the prince invited you like yesterday, so looks like somebody's not being honest about their products, and that's not very girl boss of you. Or maybe it is. I'm not really sure what our opinion on girl bosses are. I don't know, don't read much into it. This is me at 2 a.m. on my 22nd birthday, having a mental breakdown in the mirror while bleaching my hair and doing my best to cope with the fact that I'm about to graduate college and I put all of this money into it only to write blogs and be a housewife. True story. Anyway, so a caterpillar that she pulled out of a spider web in the very beginning of the movie and shoved into a box turns into a man in a dress. I'm not gonna lie, Billy Porter literally lights up the entire screen. I thoroughly enjoyed The Fabulous Godmother, and I feel like he didn't need anything or anybody to support him there. He just was just that charismatic and entertaining. He didn't need any support. Also, I adored the transition, so I have to share it. I know a lot of people felt like the humor in this scene was like forced, but I genuinely laughed. And I think the dress reveal was really funny too. And I don't mind the final dress. I've seen a lot of people ripping on it, but like I think it's cute. I like that they hinted at the original fairy tale by incorporating the tree, which would have originally been her mother in the story. And I think it's a cute modern twist to Cinderella's ball gown. However, I think I've had enough of the head bobbing. Thank you very much. And we have the most iconic line delivery in the entire movie.
Tonight is not about you, it's about me.
Followed by a very Moulin Rouge-esque mashup of Seven Nation Army and What a Man, which surprisingly works.
But that's what I'll do. What a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty, 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 mighty good man. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a good man.
I'm not even gonna talk about James Corden and the mice because I literally can't stand it. I can't, so don't ask me to do it because I won't. At the ball, she meets this aristocrat who girl bossed her way to the top and killed the king. And she's like, I'll buy your dresses and stuff. And she's like, yay. Then the prince finds her and sweeps her off her feet after an embarrassingly charming reveal.
Young.
So there's this scene where the prince and Ella go to dance or whatever. I mean, like, I guess they have to be love interests for some stupid reason. But my fiance and I had the same thought while watching this scene. In the movie, the prince signals at the band to start playing so that they can like dance. But to us, it looks like he's actually signaling to his like backup or whatever to like kidnap or kill her or something. He's like, and I don't know why, it's just so funny to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I'd like to point out that there is absolutely no chemistry between these actors or characters, which just fuels my theory, just fuels my understanding of this movie. And I feel like you can definitely tell in this very unique dance routine. I'm sure Shawn Mendes was really happy about that. You know, as he waited on the outskirts of the set, waiting to pick up Camila so they can walk their dogs together into the horizon, while he looks over his shoulder one last time, seeing the prince stare longingly in the distance, wondering what would happen if Camila had stayed in Fifth Harmony. Anyway, the prince and Ella make their way into a private room, I guess. Then we get this whole melodramatic moment where they love each other somehow, and he wants her to give up her dreams, and she's like, no. You know, like the girl boss she is. And his proposal falls short as she not only denies him, but has the audacity to walk away from him with a faded halter tan line and clearly plastic shoes, as if she's too good for the closeted man. At this point in the movie, everything is just getting so old. Like, it's really just so annoying to me, and I wanted it to be over so bad. There are a few scenes, though, that make up for the movie dragging on, like this one. We also get what I believe is another original song, Dream Girl. That's actually pretty good, before we find out that Cinderella's been promised to the Thomas guy that we talked about earlier. You remember the creepy one that they just, you know? So she makes a plan to run away at the perfect moment so she can make it to that one lady who was like, I'll buy your stuff, and she's gonna become the boss babe of her dreams. And this moment, this runaway sequence was enhanced by the most terrifying scene of the prince chasing her through a field. The reason that this man is menacingly tailgating this poor girl is because his tyrant of a father had a change of heart after one 3-minute conversation with his wife, and the prince's friends have convinced him that he needs to be with her despite her already having said no. This scene just convinces me more that the prince is in denial as to who his feelings are actually for, and it also makes me think that there might possibly be a love triangle going on.
We're not going to find her. We should just go home. I can't.
Would that we all have what Robert has. I mean, what is life if you're not with the person you love, right? Otherwise, we might as well just close our eyes and take the old mud nap, because nothing else matters.
So we find her then?
No, the movie's not over yet somehow. The prince has to confess his apparent love and gives Ella all of half a second to respond before he guilt trips her into an answer.
That is, as long as you feel the same way. The silence is...
A colorful moment, we get a clip of Pierce Brosnan calling for his wife and singing, which is pretty entertaining and I assume could not have been very cheap. But luckily this movie was produced under a studio that runs the world's online economy, so I guess it was probably a necessary expense.
No, he's gonna sing.
This is me showing you.
You don't have to do this.
But I do, darling. This is exactly what you wanted.
No, no, not really.
Finally, the prince decides to leave his position, and the crown is handed over to his more deserving sister, another girl boss plot point. So he gets to follow Ella as she makes her dreams come true, and who cares, the movie's finally over. Okay. Overall, the movie isn't nearly as bad as TikTok makes it look. It got a much better rating than I was expecting, and honestly, it has a few hidden gems in it. But I think the best part of it is that there's so much material to make fun of. As long as you're not going into it with like serious expectations of an undeniable hit, you'll probably walk away with a renewed love for the girl boss that lives in all of us. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look into the 2021 release of Cinderella, and if you had a good time, let me know by commenting your favorite part and by liking the video. Or if you hated it, bully me and tell me what irked you the most. And also, don't forget that our wedding is coming up, so you like have to subscribe and get to know me before we, go on our honeymoon and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching. See you next time.